the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
Seen all the different scenarios, and let's stay in the realm of like what's reasonable. Like obviously, like I would keep calling about this guy Patrick Mahomes. I would call him. I would see what the Chiefs are. If hey, are you happy? Obviously, in a perfect world, you could just acquire a Josh Allen or a Patrick Mahomes. But in what's realistic, and you're the GM of the Atlanta Falcons, what do you want, and what would you do this offseason?
So considering that there is nothing close to not even, let's forget the word perfect. There's nothing close to a like really good well-rounded option. Because I like Kirk Cousins, the quarterback. I'm living in fear of what that contract's going to look like for a team that bragged on how they got out of salary cap hell by eating all the dead money from Matt Ryan and all the other contracts that, Chase, there's a chance they give Kirk Cousins 3 guaranteed years. I don't know if they'll end up going that far, but there's a chance they give him 3 guaranteed years at $120 million, right? So now you're going to pay a quarterback $40 million. Now, they can open up money by doing contract restructures. They can cut some other guys, but that's exactly what they wanted to get away from when they said we were moving on from Matt Ryan. Now, they've twisted that tail. They didn't want to move on from Matt Ryan. They, tried to have sex publicly with Deshaun Watson. Matt didn't like, them cheating on him publicly, so he's like, I want out. And then they used the story that we wanted to get out for Matt's contract. I want Kirk Cousins. I don't want the contract. So that being said, I wouldn't do Kirk for that kind of money. I would have a hard line and move on. If this number gets past a certain point, I would walk away. Justin Fields does not overly excite me. At least it's only a 2 years commitment. You have the year under contract and the 5th year option. And we're at a point now where I think you can get him for a 3rd round pick. I'm not the biggest. I was a much bigger fan of Justin coming out of Ohio State than I am now. So I think he's largely flawed. I don't like Russell Wilson, but I love the price. Like if he really wants to do the deal where he sticks it to the Broncos and you pay him $1.2 million, I can live with the weirdness of Russell, the fact that I think his skills have diminished because I can surround him with a bunch of stuff. I'm not trying to avoid the question. There is not a great option among this group. But knowing the Falcons, somehow the musical chairs game will stop and they'll end up with Gardner Minshew or Jacoby Brissett. If it's me, I would move heaven and earth to try to move up in the draft, but the problem becomes you got to have a dance partner, and I don't know if any of those top 3 are going to want to dance. Like I would much rather see them fill the quarterback slot with something cheap for a year, bring in a quarterback, whether that's Jaden Daniels or whomever you think you want to try to do. I don't think Drake is in play, and I don't think Caleb's in play. So if it's Jaden, I would let him sit for a little bit, give me some version of a veteran quarterback, and try to build around the young, cheap quarterback moving forward. I just don't think that's realistic because I just don't know if they're going to have the capital to get up as high as, let's say, the Patriots at number 3. So they're stuck in purgatory, man. It's an awful spot to be in quarterback desperation.
But on the positive side, I think there's a way to spin this, and I wonder if this makes you happy if they ultimately go down this road, Matt. Like, what if they still sign, like, they get Kirk for 3 years, whatever. Maybe it's 2. Maybe it's just a bunch of money and it's 2, and that's, like, the middle ground they're able to get to. A lot of guaranteed money and all that, but it's 2. But they also trade up for a quarterback. Is that enough for you to be like, okay, it's foolproof, they've really, really invested, like, Kirk is a stopgap for 2 years, that's fine. And then he's going to get the most out of all these different wide receiver skill position guys, whether it's Pitts, London, Bijan, whoever. Like, we're going to have good, competent football. Once again, the offense should be fun. And then we also trade up for whether maybe it's JJ, maybe it's Jaden Daniels, whoever it is that something? I think that's more plausible than I think a lot of people may overlook. Do you share that sentiment that they could do the best of both worlds, which is, look, I know you don't love the options that are available out there, but we're going to sign Kirk Cousins. We're also going to prepare for life after Kirk Cousins and really just solidify this quarterback room for the long term.
So let's play that out, because if you're signing Kirk, you're doing it in win now mode, and it's pretty obvious the owner at 82 years old wants to give himself and his team the best chance to win. If you do the scenario you're talking about, and I just paid a boatload for Kirk, but now I'm giving away a chance to get cheap labor, talented players around him for the next 2 or 3 years, that doesn't gel. And that's why I don't think it's like, I could see them drafting later on project quarterback that they can try to develop. But so if you traded away the picks to move up to number 3 to take a quarterback. Well, now I can't get Kirk another stud receiver. I can't get Kirk something on the defensive side to help if he doesn't have the ability to score as many points. I don't think those two things mesh. I don't think you can spend the money and the draft capital on 2 quarterbacks and there's part of this that has to be said. It has been grossly exaggerated, all the stuff the Falcons have offensively. They have Drake London, who's a pretty good receiver. He's not a 1, but he's a pretty good receiver. Kyle Pitts at this point has been nothing more than a maybe. And a guy who's been banged up, has not been in the best offense, has not had a quarterback. So that's what you have, and you have Bijan, which I think everybody loves. And I think Bijan would be the one that would benefit the most from Kirk, because now you'd have to take the pass game seriously, and he'd catch a million passes. But beyond that, Chase, they have no receivers under contract. I don't mean, like, I'm not exaggerating. They have no receivers under contract outside of Drake London. They don't have a defense that I think is as good. Okay, I'll put it this way. The defense did a good job last year. They overachieved based on the talent of the opponents they played, and they did like Jesse Bates was awesome. Yeah. David Onyemata was a great pickup, and so was Caden Ellis. At the end of the year, that defense was falling apart, and the more they played more skilled and talented people, you saw them come back to the pack. So the weirdness of the Kirk Cousins thing to me is he's joining a very flawed roster that I know he'll make better, but Kirk isn't great enough to take a middle-of-the-road team and make them something more than just a little bit better. The best news for him and the best news for the Falcons remains the NFC South. And that's not anything about them. It's the division. So if they go Cousins, I think they go spend big in free agency. I think they use a lot of their draft capital to surround Kirk with stuff. I think they try to maximize the 2 or 3 years with Kirk rather than spending capital on another quarterback.
This is more of your wheelhouse based on what the Falcons have done to you these past few years, Matt. What's the worst case scenario for the quarterback position this offseason for the Falcons?
Oh, I told you, they get left at the altar, right? They want Kirk, he's plan A, doesn't happen. They want Baker, he's plan B, he goes back to Tampa. They get down to plan C, they want to trade up in the draft.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.